Welcome back, fellow soldiers, to a video that still isn't a developer's briefing, but it also concerns update number 7. And concerning this update number 7, we have a lot to talk about. So this is already the second video about update number 7. If you have missed the first video, I'll link it in the upper right corner with some first impressions of my first round that I played after update 7 dropped yesterday. Have a look at that one too. It has a lot of very interesting angles and insights on the new changes that came with update number 7. And as promised in that video there, we are having this video now about the specific changes that came with update number 7, and we're having a closer look at the update 7 patch notes. First up, the 4 biggest things that changed with update number 7. We already know them, so I won't go into detail with that. Those are the changes that came to the animation with the first person perspective and the changes in third person perspective. There are also changes made to the whole sound environment, specifically to how the weapons sound in different surroundings, and of course the new map that dropped together with update number 7, that is Quarantine, that includes warfare and offensive US mode. We're not having the closest look at those because they are already known and we've already spoken about them in previous videos that you can also check out on my channel. In this video today, we're gonna have a closer look at the other patch notes and to see what the developers also changed that is probably not as big as a new map, but can still influence the game a lot and also adds to the whole atmosphere of the game. So let's dive right into it. First up, we have overhauls and reworks of 2 major maps that we've already known before that are still on the rework, and those are Foy map and Omaha Beach map. On the Foy map, the game modes have received a photoreal lightning pass that includes a change to all the atmospheric stuff that is going on the map. So the atmosphere should have changed to the better, as you have probably realized. And what I think is very important for that map, for the Foy map, is that they overworked every strong point position on the map, and they listened to feedback out of the community and applied changes accordingly. So that means the strong points should now be better placed and more tactically placed, and should also be built so that we can hope for interesting combat if it comes to an attack or a defense situation on that specific strong point. And not only terrain or building wise the strong points changed, the devs also provided either a visual upgrade, fixed some collision bugs, or improved the gameplay, as I already told, on those strong points. So there already has happened a lot, and a lot of changes are coming now with update number 7 to the Foy map, which is great and will definitely add to the gameplay a lot. Concerning the rework of Omaha Beach, you are probably thinking, didn't we already get like 2 reworks? And yes, that is true, and the devs are still working on that map and are planning on doing so for the whole early access period. And together with update number 7, they included some minor changes on the Omaha Beach, where they partially overhauled the map in different locations, including Vierville and the outlying strong points, and they did significant rework to include also new assets that include more optimized and gameplay friendly structures and layout, so the gameplay will be made even more interesting than before. And to that, they also added some rework to relit and better enlight the map and change the atmosphere on the map. Therefore, just to make the mood of the faded morning better on Omaha Beach, and that should also come to your eyes when you play on that map. I personally think that the devs are doing a great job with especially working and still working on Omaha Beach, since it's such an iconic map that is just very well known when it comes to World War II. And if new players join the game, I can imagine that they specifically want to play Omaha Beach as their first map because they have heard a lot about it. So good job from the devs there too. I really like that they are still planning on working and making that map even better, even after we already got 2 or even 3 reworks. Now a quick side note from me here. During recording this and reading up on the developers briefing or the patch notes that the devs provided, I saw that this will take a little bit longer than our usual developers briefing, since it's so much content. And just for you to know, I will not go according to the patch notes that the developers wrote. I will mix this part here up with a part of the end of the patch notes that the developers provided on Steam, and I will publish a new video 1 day or 2 days after this one with the changes that come to the meta gameplay that will influence how we are playing with your character. But I can promise you that in this video we're gonna get a lot more information too, so also stay put on this one, just so you know that I'm gonna make 2 videos out of it, because that will take a little bit longer than usual. Now, what we're going to talk about now and next will be the specific patch change list that came to gameplay and performance. And of course, I'm not gonna read every single point of it to you guys. I just picked out some of the things that I think are also most interesting for you. And of course, some things that I personally think are worth mentioning. So let's have a closer look at them. First up, players that are driving in a vehicle or sitting in a gunner position in a vehicle are now able to use their mouse to turn their head inside the vehicle viewports to simulate that you can have a look around from inside the vehicle. And also concerning the gunner seat, the guns now also have the ballistic system applied to them. This especially applies to the machine guns that are mounted or that come with the tank seats. And speaking of guns and MGs, the big MG that the MG class is walking around with can now be deployed while the player is still moving, instead of requiring the player to stop moving first. So that means the whole movement should be a lot more smoother, and it should be easier to place your machine gun. Staying with guns, I think one thing that we all have been waiting for without actually knowing it is that the M1 Garand can now finally be reloaded mid-clip. Until before the update, you were only able to reload the gun if you emptied the magazine. From now on, it's also possible to reload it mid-clip. That is pretty nice, and yeah, I think a lot of you guys have also waited for that without actually knowing it. Another thing that I kind of celebrated when I saw it the first time on the map, I didn't read the patch change list before playing, so I wasn't aware of it, but I immediately saw it when I clicked through the map, and that is that when you hover over any unit officers on the map, it will highlight all of their unit members. And I think that's quite a cool thing, because you see where different squads are located, especially here for squad leaders and the commander, so they can organize who is staying where and doing what job. But also for you as a squad member that is not leading, you see where other squads are heading to and what players belong to what squad. So I quite fancy that one. That is a very cool feature. And speaking of very cool features, the devs now added more ways for players to gain experience. And yes, I know this is a controversial topic, since some players on the Hell Let Loose subreddit said that they liked the system as it is now, that it is quite hard to gain experience and to rank up. But I think for the everyday player, there has to be some kind of gratification when they play. So the developers now added more ways to gain such experience. It is, for example, now possible to gain experience by placing an ammo box, as well as for each time the ammo box is used by another player. And those people that played Call of Duty or Battlefield, they know where this idea is coming from. In my opinion, I think it's a good addition to the game. I think that especially plays into cards of casual players. I can understand that some players that played it more on the pro side are a bit unhappy that now ranking up your player is a bit less a struggle, but hey, it's how it is, and I think we have to adjust to the main core of the player base. Now, coming to the last change that has been made on the gameplay, one thing that I've said in the impressions video that I've said wrong actually. When I played, I saw that some people of my squad were shown in red and appeared in red. And yesterday I thought that was when players are already dead. But when now reading the patch list, there are 3 different colors that player's name will show up. If they are white, they are still alive. If they are red, then the player is in a critical state and needs help. And if the player's name turns gray, the player died or is in the deployment menu. So a little correction to that. There are actually 3 different colors that a squad member's name can show up. Now, we've had several changes that concerned the gameplay. Now, I want to just mention some that concern the visual improvements. And yes, those also influence your gameplay experience, but mainly the focus here the devs had on the visual improvement that will be made with update number 7. For the first part, they reworked the suppression system. So they optimized the visual effects on the player with the first person perspective. They made the blur far less ugly while still maintaining the intended effect, they write. And previously they say it was very difficult to determine whether you had been wounded, as the suppression would darken your screen. So I can say that this was actually a problem that I wasn't aware of, but that I've experienced. It was indeed a thing that you weren't sometimes sure if you have been wounded or not, or if it was just suppression. So with the new suppression system, this should have been reworked and should have been made better. Now, also tying into the visuals is that they reworked the bloody screen that you get when you get wounded, and it should be now much more clearer that you are wounded, and the screen also gets much more bloodier when you are wounded more severely. So this also changed to make the feeling out of the first person perspective more real, and I hope it does. So they also changed how much the camera shakes when you are firing a weapon yourself, and also how much the camera shakes when an explosion occurs nearby. And I think that this was exactly the thing that a lot of people mentioned on the subreddit, that they feel nauseated by the camera movement out of the first person perspective. I personally didn't have a problem. Let me know in the comments down below if you've experienced that. I would be very interested in that one. And now to finish this video off, the last thing that I want to point out that the devs changed, and that is, some of you probably have already noticed it, traditional map voting is no longer a thing. The devs wrote that they saw that it was seen as more or less unfunctional, that it was more irritating than it would improve the gameplay experience. So they got now rid of it, and they said also that they will introduce a new map voting system, a much nicer one at the end of the round when update 8 comes around. And that's been it for this part of the patch notes. I hope you enjoyed the content I provided. Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will be back with the second part of the patch notes tomorrow or in 2 days. And until then, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see each other on the battlefield.